Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope on this fourth day of February. Got a big show with you on for tonight. Anthony Davis has been traded to the lowly Washington Wizards. Who'd he tick off, right? Also, Robert Kraft not getting into the Hall of Fame. I got my take on that. And as I was promising you the other day, I'm breaking all 10 head coach and hires in NFL. It took me a while to do that, but I got it all squared away. Let's talk about that and more news and notes. I noticed that Joey Aguilar, Tennessee quarterback, has filed an injunction and got a temporary restraining order to come back to possibly get a 6 year of eligibility and playing at Tennessee. I've got all that and more. Stand by. Take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily and hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty, folks. Also, I wanted to mention the fact that I thought I could be able to get Rich Ferris in and talk to him a little. He works with the Tennessee Titans flagship. We're going to talk about the I keep wanting to call it Robert Duvall. Brian Duvall pairing him with Robert Saleh. Get a little insight from him. But I forgot he does his show tonight at the same time. Here in Nashville, folks, we've had a lot of turmoil with this ice storm and stuff, and he had his power out last week, and I've been crazy busy. So he told me he couldn't make it tonight because it overlaps time, and I totally forgot about that. Tried to last minute add in a Keith Angle. I'll get his take on this Patriots playing the Super Bowl this week, but Keith Angle's on one of his cruises there, and he's out of the country, so maybe a little short on material. But I tell you what, the stuff I got, I think, is rip, roaring fire here. So, okay. Anthony Davis traded to the Washington Wizards. That's the biggest story of the day, in my opinion. Doesn't look like the most glamorous trade in the world. I'm going to go over it here in just a little bit, but I will say this. If you look at the Luka Doncic trade to the Lakers for an Anthony Davis, and then you look at the fact that Davis was traded now to the Wizards and whatnot. I watched Luka the other day. Look good. He's looked great all year. Don't get me wrong. Looked good the other night against the Knicks. But look at the weight he's lost and the commitment to excellence that he is now versus 1 year ago when he was injured, because he's coming in out of shape every single year here. I really do think this whole thing, if you look at the fact that he was traded to the Lakers, he's going to be their centerpiece now. He's going to be working with an offensive mind like a J.J. Redick. They've got new ownership. The ownership that runs the Dodgers there, he's coming into potential championship form there, and he got woke up out of his, hey, listen, you're not fireproof. You have to come in prepared. We know you're extremely skilled, but you need to be in better shape. That worked out for him, and he said, well, yeah, Nico Harrison gets fired, gets a also injured Anthony Davis out of this deal. Well, they also end up getting a megastar, a generational talent, and Cooper Flagg, who's playing at a LeBron-like level from a teenage standpoint. I think he had the highest point total of any teenagers ever played in the history of the NBA the other day. You look at the fact that they've done that, and the fact they wouldn't really have gelled together, him and Luka Doncic. He was playing point. Jason Kidd had him play point guard the other day. So Dallas has Luka Doncic, Dallas has Cooper Flagg, okay, and the Lakers and Luka Doncic has got the wake-up call he needed. He has resurrected his career, okay. Anthony Davis, although, probably not happy he's moved to Washington, but he's got an out in about a year and a half or so. He can go anywhere he wants to go and completely start over and be, play some kind of role in the next championship for him. So if you look at this whole situation, and I'll get down into the nitty-gritty of the details here in just a second, it's a win-win situation for everybody involved, if you ask me, except for Nico Harrison, and maybe he'll bounce back. I'm sure he'll bounce back eventually. Okay, so here's the notes that I have here. All right, the actual trade itself. Okay, Sharm Sharami, an ESPN guy. Okay. By the way, so tomorrow's the trade deadline. Nothing left yet that I've heard about on Giannis. So we'll see. I didn't realize he's messing with his calf strain, and he's been hurt every year. I don't know if anybody should trade for him. Looks like maybe Minnesota might. It looks like Miami might, but I'll get to that tomorrow or whenever it breaks. 10-time All-Star Anthony Davis, according to Shams Charania, traded for along with Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum. They all go to the Wizards for Chris Middleton, basically a buyout contract there, 34-year-old Chris Middleton. A.J. Johnson, Mikey Brenham, Marvin Bagley II, 2 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks there. Like I said, it's just not the most sensational trade that you would ever see. And again, Davis, they'll have him from 26 to the rest of this season, coming up into the 27th season. But basically, he could stay in Washington for 1 year, and he's got a player option for 27 and 28. Okay, the Wizards will want to make this argument that they got this front court here. And by the way, they have an awful record again with Davis, Alex Starr, Bibby Colodably as being one of the best defensive front courts in the league. Well, we'll see about that. Okay, so here's what the Bleacher Report put out about Luka, the trade. So the Mavs turned Luka into Max Christie, Chris Middleton, be a bio guy, A.J. Johnson, Mikey Brandon, Marvin Bagley III, the Lakers 2029 first-round pick, the Thunder, they got theirs this year, the 2026 for the Thunder, the 2030 protected first-round pick from the Warriors, second-round pick from the Suns in 26, second-round pick from the Suns 27, the Rockets second-round pick in 29. Did they get enough? Hey, listen, if you look at the fact you add all that and then you throw in a Cooper Flagg, it really works out for the Dallas Mavericks, if you ask me. Now you're comparing him with that young talent. Now, I know that Kyrie's still on the roster. I don't think he still came back from his injury or whatever. But you've got all that young talent there and young talent coming in to help grow with Flagg. Now that the fact that, Davis has just been hurt, I can understand now, looking back on it, why Nico Harrison ended up being the fall guy in this situation. So if you want to go with, we need a team that's available to play, you probably don't want to add a guy like an Anthony Davis there if you want to get rid of a Luka Doncic. So I can understand that. And prior to that, taking a chance and adding another guy who's been injured and also has been a bit of a I don't know if I want to use the word head case, but just an unreliable player from a commitment standpoint in the Kyrie Irving, whether you want to call him a malcontent or anything of that nature in a Kyrie Irving. So you're kind of going against your own philosophy I'm talking about Nico Harrison, why he was fired. Even though I thought it wasn't a bad trade from the beginning, you really look into it. Okay, you're kind of contradicting yourself if you're bringing in a guy like who did have work ethic issues going back to his Laker days before maybe LeBron got in his rear end when they won their 2020 championship in the what is it, the Dome Championship back in 2020, the COVID year. He was not in the best of shape the following year coming back with the Lakers. So, and he's had his injury history as well. But other than Harrison's being the fall guy there, like I said, this is a total win-win. Luka wins. He gets the wake-up call. He's in great shape. The Mavs get Cooper Flag, and all's well and ends well. And, of course, Anthony Davis will get his freedom and his player option coming up here shortly. Okay? All right. Now, Robert Kraft was not put into the Hall of Fame since the last time I talked to you guys. So, okay, you're trying to tell me 11 Super. I mean, Robert Kraft, who is going to be in a Super Bowl this week. He's got all his championships with Bill Belichick. They're going to be in again this week. And you look at him compared to a Jerry Jones, who's already in. Robert Kraft gets denied a Hall of Fame inductee. You look at Jerry Jones, I think half the Super Bowls. Okay, you put those two together, and then you look at the fact that you have Bill Belichick not getting in the first time, arguably the greatest coach of all time, 8 Super Bowl titles, 6 as a head coach. And you're trying to tell me that the voters do not have some kind of animus against the Patriots. You know, it looks like that it is a personal issue with from the writers to the Patriot organization. So Brady's looking at this and say, hey man, I'm coming up. I don't know if I'm gonna get the first ballot, you know? And it just looks bad. It looks bad. And you say, well, they had the 2 cheating scandals. Okay. Well, if you really think about it, there was some speculation that Kraft was going to get in. So I don't know if this was one of those deals where the writers thought about this and they didn't want to make it look like that they were not putting Bill Belichick in, because they had to get so like I mentioned last week, and everybody's been talking about it, the 40 out of the 50 votes. You get the people in there. I think you get like 5 nominees. You got to pick 3. So Roger Craig gets in, who's been, geez, I'm looking at Roger Craig. He's been retired for like almost 30 years now. I think his last game was in like 93 or something like that. And that wasn't even with the 49ers, where he had a three Super Bowl success with. This looks like this is just against the Patriots. And people are saying, well, it's not this and that. And, we did not want to vote. There's speculation that, Roger Craig, it's been a long time. I mean, my whole point for all that is you vote who you think is the best, the absolute best candidate on the ballot, regardless of year. And obviously, you got a guy like a Jerry Jones in there, and you don't have a Robert Kraft in there. You've got these other coaches, and even a Jimmy Johnson. If you look at pure Super Bowls, he's also in. And Bill Belichick is not in. So even Jimmy Johnson went out and defended Bill Belichick last week with the whole deflate, the Spygate stuff and everything of that nature. So anyways, this looks like a anti-patriot type of issue. And let me say this. And I'm going to give you my prediction tomorrow. I've been breaking down some stuff on that, on the Super Bowl coming up. But part of me, because this looks so petty from the voters, this looks petty because, listen, even after the Spygate, they went on to win multiple Super Bowls after that. What about the Deflategate? They went on to win Super Bowls after that. After the Deflategate, Brady's numbers were still good. So it just looks like there's just animus against this organization now. But with the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, with the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, yeah, I kind of like to see the Patriots win for Kraft to them to stick it back to the league there and these writers. Best revenge is living well, right? Living well for the voters and whatnot. So it's taking a chance at taking a shot at the writers in the media and whatnot. That would be interesting, And also I thought to myself, well, I'd kind of like to see Vrabel win, just to stick it to Amy Adams Strunk, the owner here with the Tennessee Titans, for the fact that she did not want to trade any Titan players. She would not allow them. There was a report. She didn't say nothing about it publicly to the Patriots because of she didn't want to help out Mike Vrabel. Well, are you looking at what's best for this football team, or are you looking out to spite Mike Vrabel? That being said, they were really good in the hiring cycle. So that's my take on that. Okay, now speaking of the NFL, speaking of Amy Adams Strunk and coaches and whatnot, as I mentioned on Monday's program, on that recorded program I had on Monday, what are the 10? We've got all 10 jobs filled, okay? And I didn't even talk about coordinator jobs. I'm telling you right now, I'm really high before I start this list on what the Chargers are doing, bringing in McDaniel there to work with that staff, with Justin Herbert, and the talent there, that those two tackles coming back, and that talent they have at the running back position there. Now, I know they lost a really good coordinator. Their defensive coordinator is now the head coach. A little concerned about that. But if you look at the kind of cap money they're going to have coming up this year, they're not too far down there. They're going to have a lot of cap money. They very well, I'm looking at them, they very well may be my Super Bowl pick for 27. But anyways, that's a coordinator hire. That's not a head coaching hire. Okay, starting from the bottom, now we're here. Starting from the bottom, now my whole team here. With the last, and then I'll work my way up to where I'm ranking, with the 10 being the worst, number 1 being the best coaching hire. Okay, number 10, Mike LaFleur. Listen, at Arizona, I don't care for that owner there. I saw the Hard Knocks with him. I don't like his body language as owner. Then you read the report about how he treats people. And I was thinking, well, they were obviously one of the last hires. I think they were the last, hire to get a coach here. So Mike LaFleur here, the brother of Matt LaFleur. Yeah, that's a pretty decent name there. And the fact that the Rams did have the league's best offense. But if you look at the fact of the owner situation, of Kyler Murray's cap situation, and his injury history, the guy cannot finish the season here. I think this is the worst hire and the worst situation of everybody. I know they've got some pieces on that team at receiver. They got some offensive line pieces. They'll probably get an edge rusher, but that they may go offensive line. I've seen it all over the place there. But with Murray's injury history and his cap hit, which is over $50 million, and the ownership there, I think that this is the worst hire and the worst situational hire. Could be wrong, but that one. Mike LaFleur at number 10 on ranking the head coach and hire. Okay. Number 9. Jeff Hafley is not a bad coach. This is the former Boston College coach turned Green Bay Packer defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley. Not bad, especially before Micah Parsons went down. They looked like they were a potential Super Bowl contender. He takes the head coaching job down in Miami. Again, you've got the $50 million plus cap hit with Tua. And I thought McDaniel got everything he could possibly get out of Tua down in Miami. Remember, they started 0-5. Later on, they went on a little bit of a run. Thought maybe McDaniel would save his job. Ultimately, that wasn't the case towards the end of the season. And then, of course, he wasn't fired at the end of the season. But my point was later on in the season, he was benched. Tua was benched. So you kind of feel like, they got to the playoffs, but they couldn't win a game with Tua. We know about Tua's injury history with his concussions, those scary-looking hits, and also, again, with his big cap number, and you're putting guys like Quinn Ewers in there. So mediocre roster, got a few pieces, but not in love with it and not really sure what Hafley's going to bring to the table there. Anthony Weaver, they lost their defensive coordinator. He's going up to Baltimore. So I just think that is just a pretty – some people say maybe it could be a good hire, but I think it's number 9 on the hiring list for me, okay, as the 9th towards the end, which means 10's the worst, 9's the second, right? Okay, number 7, this one would be higher, but you have to put them in order, and you got to put the situation. You could put a good coach on a bad team that's got shaky quarterback and shaky cap room situation, and things can happen, and a good coach can be out of a job real quick. But Todd Monken at number 7, he's an experienced, proven offensive mind. Like I said before, success and experience with had success with Lamar Jackson. Best numbers of Lamar's career out of Todd Monken. And, of course, you throw in Stetson Bennett at the college level. I think he'll get, like I said last week, he'll get everything he can out of Shedeur Sanders, whether it be another quarterback they bring in. But what's holding him down is the Deshaun Watson situation and contract. You could say that was holding Stefanski down too. But either way, I got him at number 7, Todd Monken. That could get better. We got to see what they're going to do at the quarterback situation. But I'm looking at it as is with that anchor of a contract, that Deshaun Watson situation. And which quarterback are you going to use? Gabriel? Is Gabriel back in? Obviously, they're not going to name Shedeur and just give him. It's going to be a heck of a quarterback competition. So we got to see how that one's going to play out. All right, number 6, Kevin Stefanski. It's more about the situation. Listen, this team looked like they were going to win division at one time. This Atlanta team, remember they beat Buffalo, folks. They beat Buffalo at home. They looked really sharp at times in Atlanta, even with both quarterbacks at one time. But they just were not consistent. But Stefanski is an upgrade over Raheem Morris, one of the better offensive lines in football Atlanta's got. Probably the best running back all around in Bijan Robinson. He's coming right into his prime here. We saw it last year. You got a true number 1 receiver there in Drake London. You got the edge rusher there, James Pierce, rookie, his second-year guy. You got him on a rookie contract. The problem is, what are you going to do? Kirk Cousins, they're going to move off him. They're going to probably take a hit there on the Kirk Cousins contracted situation. Then you got Michael Penix coming back from a third ACL. That's what's holding him back. Plus, I got him right down to the 6th. I would have Monken ahead of him, but he is coming into a better situation as far as polished offensive line, big skill position players. and the fact that and pretty good defense. Just a younger team all around. Although Cleveland's got a bunch of draft picks. Like I said, not really in love with the scheme, but it is an upgrade over a Raheem Morris. Kevin Stefanski at 6. I know certain people would have him ranked a little higher. Now, Mike McCarthy, you say, well, why Mike McCarthy above Stefanski? Because of the patience of the organization and the fact McCarthy is a Super Bowl winning coach, okay? He is a Super Bowl winning head coach. Even if they have to go with the backup and not Aaron Rodgers, or maybe they get a Mac Jones. You never know what they may do. Rodgers still may retire. He's going to go on his retreats, and then you'll find out what the deal is here. But and you may have to do some shifting there. You may have to do a little bit of shifting and move off some defensive players. But McCarthy got a better resume than Stefanski. Got a more patient organization, although Atlanta's not too bad. They had a very patient organization there. I do think that this hire is better than Stefanski. I've got the Mike McCarthy. Pittsburgh would have him higher, but of course, cap issues, quarterback issues, that really hurts. That really hurts a coach there. But I got him in at number 5. Okay. All right. Number 4. Let's see if we can find it here. Listen, people may say this is a little high. This is a little bit of a wild card, but I talked about this Monday that Clint Kubiak, everything is nothing's in stone yet, folks, but all fingers are pointing to Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator with the Seattle Seahawks. Talked about this Monday, the success he's had with Sam Darnold this year and the start he had last year with New Orleans there before Derek Carr ended up getting banged up last year. The 40-point games there. Kubiak paired with Fernando Mendoza, who just looks like an absolute can't miss. It's going to be coming up likely at the number 1 pick that the Raiders have with Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty. They also have the left tackle there, Colton Miller. You look at that they need some pieces on defense, but they want to move Crosby and try to go young on defense. Look at the fact that they're second only to Tennessee in cap room there. A lot of cap room, got your quarterback situated, got the right kind of coach there to put the right offense around him. I think that is it just feels like a home run hire. And again, I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think that this is potentially the best situation the Raiders have been in since Rich Gannon and Al Davis days. So when Dad was running it instead of Mark before Dad went a little crazy there. And of course, he's passed away, obviously. Okay, number 3. I guess somebody may say, well, this is getting a little high here. But listen, Jesse Mentor, a lot of hype coming on. This guy worked with both Harbaughs, coming off 2 championship defenses, or coming off championship defense in Michigan. But look at the top 5, I want to say, the Chargers were. Look at the great job he's done from that perspective. And he brought in Anthony Weaver, not a bad coordinator there at Miami. Going to put him up to the defense with Baltimore will be airtight. And the fact that he went out and got a very young offensive coordinator here, Dinkin Doyle. So Dinkin Doyle, 29-year-old offensive coordinator from the Bears. I guess Ben Johnson was calling all the plays there with the Bears. He wanted to do his own thing. So this guy feels like a Mike Macdonald fresh hire who's in the Super Bowl with the Seahawks right now. This feels like a fresh hire. I'm looking at the energy and a guy like an Anthony Weaver on that defense. I'm looking at Mentor, that fresh air guy. Basically, it feels like you're bringing in a young Harbaugh, a John Harbaugh. You know, you're bringing in that shot of energy there from a Jesse Mentor. Could this possibly been the number one hire? Possibly, but this guy doesn't have a head coaching experience. And Lamar Jackson salary, which, the owner mentioned this, was it Steve Bisciotti mentioned the other day, we're going to try to extend Lamar because this cap hit is crazy. $73 million. It was 43 last year. So, but if you extend them, you could get that way down there, maybe like 15 or something like that. Really get that and make it better. They'll have more money to bring in some players here. So Jesse Mentor, a very good hire there at number 3. May have also hired a little bit higher if there were some more experience with this Deacon Doyle from Chicago. But if you're Lamar Jackson, you're looking at this as this guy's going to try a lot of stuff here. He's going to use some of those Ben Johnson tricks there. Let's see if it all plays out. Okay. Number 2, wasn't in love with this at first, but once you started seeing the staff come together and looking at the situation here and what I'm reading and hearing coming out of Nashville, here in Nashville, of course, but this Robert Saleh hire with Tennessee, mind you, he's going to build that defense probably around Jeffrey Simmons. Now, we talked about the possibility of trading him the other day with Matt New Yorker, but likelihood they'll probably just build the defense around Simmons at 29 years old. The most cap money in the NFL, $100+ million. And what really helped this come up to number 2 here in my coaching ranking hires is the fact that he brought Brian Daboll in to work with Cam Ward. Cam Ward said today, this guy's going to hold me accountable. He's going to raise the bar really high. And I'm thinking that was really weird that he said that. I'm thinking, yeah, maybe because of Brian Callahan did not hold you accountable. You're sitting there arguing with defensive guys in practice with your rookie. Either way, Cam Ward very excited about working with the Brian Daboll here, and the fact that Tennessee top 5 pick, all this money, most money in the NFL, to go out and grab another tight end, another weapon there, and they'll probably get one in the draft as well. You look at the foundation, brought in Gus Bradley as a defensive coordinator, former head coach. Bradley didn't have the best defense there, but he's going to be an assistant. You know that Saleh is going to be running that defense. He's going to be calling it. He said he wanted to feel like he's more part of the game. He's a high energy guy. And I think Jason Garrett said after interviewing with the Titans that he says they got something special going on down there. So he likes the management. Maybe Amy Adams-Strunk has stepped back enough. Maybe she's hearing people like me saying, maybe you need to sell the team, and saying, I've meddled too much. I'm not strong in this area in football operations. Maybe I shouldn't get into my motions and my feels or whatever. Like I know that's kind of like a new thing younger folks say. Too much and let the football people do their thing, and I'll fade back a little bit. And maybe that's starting to come out. That vibe is starting to come out with the new structure of the organization down here in Tennessee. That's what Jason Garrett said today. Then you're looking at guys like, Brian Daboll paired with Robert Saleh there, and of course their defensive coordinator there, Gus Bradley. So I got them at number 2. So it goes out to looking like a disaster in Tennessee to now the future looks pretty bright here in the immediate future. Again, we don't know how long that Daboll's going to stay. I do know this, that who was it? Brian Flores was paid $6 million to be the defensive coordinator. Maybe she should look at doing something like that if it's a pretty mediocre job cycle come up for Daboll in 2027, and keep him around at least throughout Cam Ward's rookie contract. This tie keeps coming down. Excuse me, folks. So I got Tennessee at number 2. Okay, number 1, last obviously but not least, the best hire, John Harbaugh, coming in, first really big name coach here since Tom Coughlin. Remember, Tom Coughlin had got the Jacksonville Jaguars to the AFC Championship game. John Harbaugh, $20 million a year contract here. Bringing in Matt Nagy as the offensive coordinator. Nagy, remember, he won 2 playoff games with Mitch Trubisky in a division with Matt Stafford there and Aaron Rodgers. That's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Nagy wanted to leave. He wanted more control of the offense, so he goes and works with John Harbaugh. And look at these pieces around him. They got Jackson Dart to work with. You've got all those defensive pieces there. Get those guys coached up. Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatterboo. I mean, that's the number 1 hire right there. Let's go through it again. John Harbaugh, the number 1 hire in this hiring cycle with the New York Giants. Number 2, Robert Saleh with Tennessee. And number 3, Jesse Mentor with the Baltimore Ravens. Clint Kubiak, number 4 with the Baltimore Ravens there. And, of course, number 5, Mike McCarthy with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 6, Kevin Stefanski with the Atlanta Falcons. Number 7, Todd Monken with the Cleveland Browns there. Joe Brady with the Buffalo Bills. I think I skipped Joe Brady. I don't think I mentioned Joe Brady. The reason why I put Joe Brady at 8, I put Joe Brady at 8 because he's a very young guy. He's 36. He was already on the staff, and he brought in an unproven, although I do like him, he brought in an unproven Jim Leonard at 43, and Josh Allen's cap hit is $61 million. I think I did miss that one. So that's why I've got Buffalo's Joe Brady. It could go higher. We'll see, because they've got Josh Allen to deal with. But Brandon Beane is still there. He's missed on a lot of these picks. We shall see. But I got Brady at 8. Number 9, Jeff Hafley with Miami at number 9. And number 10, of course, Mike LaFleur with the Arizona. I'm not totally down on the majority of these. I don't totally down on any of these hires where I feel like it's going to be a disaster, like the Aaron Glenn hire with the Jets or so. Just not really, okay? But I rank the ones at the bottom because a lot of that is ownership, quarterback situation, cap room situation. That is setting a coach up to be fired. You know, whether it's his fault or not, we see this all the time. Coaches get fired because they had a bunch of injuries and they lost a lot of games, and the owner just says, "Hey, well, you're 5-12, and I'm gonna fire you." You know. So we shall see. We shall see. All right. Okay. All right. Now, moving right along. All right. Now, I did the Vols. This is an interesting story here out of this is an interesting, there's a few interesting stories here. College football story here. The Tennessee Vols quarterback from last year is he's going for his sixth. You heard that right, 6th year of eligibility. Joey Aguilar had this story. There's some news on this today that he was granted. He filed. He did not file with a lawsuit against the NCAA. Somehow he moved it to a Knox County or something like that district this close to Tennessee. And so the court has granted a temporary restraining order against the NCAA, which is the first step of him possibly, this is according to On 3, Pete Nakos from On 3. Tennessee's quarterback Joey Aguilar has been granted temporary restraining order against the NCAA eligibility rules, according to On 3. It's the first step of potential return here for 2026. He filed a lawsuit earlier this week to fight the 6-year eligibility to return rather than having to go pro at this time. Now it appears it's a step closer to doing so. after a breakout season, playing a fourth-year Division I football, depriving Tennessee of the gifted quarterback, robbing him of millions in compensation. Listen. This, I've been back and forth on this. Part of me wants to see these guys play as much long as they can. The cat's already out of the bag here. This is semi-pro, pro football. You've got the NIL. Possibly, I think at this point, that you'd simply just, and I know all this stuff is getting itself worked out, just put a salary cap in this thing, okay, for the college football, and just let the guys, as long as you're in college, you can play. You can play up to your 35. You said, well, Robert, what do you do about the new kids coming out of high school? Well, the new kids, young men coming out of high school, we saw what Indiana was this year. That will spread those players out even more and keep some of it will keep the other schools competitive. If a Tennessee is hanging on to these guys, a Miami's hanging on with the Carson Beck. You look at it, Carson Beck, I want to say Aguilar, or who was it? Mendoza's 4 years college. And then, of course, Beck is, 4 or 5 years? Carson Beck, who was in the national championship this past year. But if you got that many older players with the Miami, with an Indiana or whatever, well, do you think the younger players are just going to, who may be a 4 or 5 star guy, the 4 or 5 star guy, you're going to have more 4 or 5 star guys out of high school go to some of these other colleges around the country. So you can essentially, if that played out where a guy could just go to college, take a class and end up playing football, like a total semi-pro situation, you would have a bunch of 4-star guys that are, freshman, sophomore, and 5-star guys playing on the team like a Vanderbilt or something, right? Like a Cal or somebody, like a Nebraska, somebody that has not really, and I know Vanderbilt might have been a bad example because they're having success, but somebody that's really not known for having success, but since everybody else is stacking the older players, you could see situations where you have more first and second year guys, 19, 20 years old, go out to. So that's one scenario that can play out. Another one could be maybe they should hammer this eligibility stuff down and just say, listen, let's keep it as it is as far as the eligibility is concerned. You can do the red shirt stuff. You can do the medical red shirt or whatever. But really, I think you get about 5 years here of eligibility, and then you're done. Not unless you get the injured, the gray shirt or whatever. It's hard for me to keep up with the shirts. You keep it as is, so you don't have too many young kids looking for colleges. So there's two ways to look at it. And of course, football wise, if you're a fan of a Tennessee, I think his name was the quarterback. His name is slipping my mind. I can't his name Levitt or whatever. The quarterback transfer from Arizona State that Tennessee lost out on, and Lane Kiffin ended up getting that quarterback from Arizona State, going down to LSU with him. Tennessee is stuck with their young. I think his name is Faison, but he's a true freshman there. And then of course you have. You much rather have a veteran quarterback taking the snaps this year. Tennessee has a lot to hang their hat. They paid $1.2 million. You heard that right, to a new strength and conditioning coach. Tennessee did from Indiana. That's a lot of money for a strength. $1.2 million in a college for a strength and conditioning. What we know about the fact they've got the new defensive coordinator there. Was it Knowles there from Jim Knowles from formerly at Penn State and, of course, Ohio State. I think the defense is going to be much, much tighter there for Tennessee. And now they've got a better strength and conditioning coach. If they bring Aguilar back with the talented classes that they brought in, Tennessee could be, although they have a tough schedule, could be a potential playoff contender there. Now, that's a lot of ifs. That's a lot. I don't know. Like 0-3 is hitting around like maybe Aguilar can play. That's a to be continued type of situation. That is a we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I thought that was an interesting story out of the college football world. Gets a little wilder as it goes. Also, this is an interesting story here. We know that, and now I'm reading that Jay Glazer saying Max Crosby's done with the Raiders, and that Crosby shared his sentiment with Mark Davis. Well, listen, that could free up that much more salary cap room. You could also go out and get some young talent. There's some teams out here that love to have a Max Crosby per se. That's more picks for me. I would go ahead and trade Crosby, or do whatever and get that cap off of your because he's an older player. You want to build around your young core anyways, okay? But, it's interesting here. The Eagles, longtime offensive line coach here. Let me make sure I got remember the Eagles got a new offensive coordinator here, and the coordinator is going to bring in his own staff. So this offensive line coach here, he is looking to be a let me make sure I got this right before I just start assuming some stuff here and making up names. But he's stepping away here. Jeff Stoutland, the Eagles want to thank Stoutland for his contributions. So they've lost their offensive line coach. They've got a new coordinator. They technically, people don't think this is crazy, but they got a coach on the hot seat, Nick Sirianni, because he's so coordinator dependent. This is 3 coordinators in 3 years. And now they bring in a phenom there, 29-year-old from quarterback coach there from the Green Bay Packers here. I thought that they took their time and they're going to roll the dice with this guy. He's going to add some splash. We'll see. But he's also bringing in his own offensive line coach. So this opens up with all these new jobs. This guy he'll probably be out of work because he's been there for a while. And they've had some of the best offensive lines in football, a lot of his talent. But he won't be out of work long. Jeff Stoutland. So just more drama there from the Philadelphia Eagles. Ian Rappaport said, the first time in years the Eagles will have a new offensive line. Scout was one of the NFL's most respected O-line gurus. Won't be coaching, but will stay around the organization. So I don't know if that's going to stay like that under offensive coordinator Scott Manning will bring in his own people. That's a new offensive coordinator. Listen, they say that until somebody else offers you a job. And I'm sure the Eagles would grant him, an opportunity to leave. I mean, it's not going to be one of those situations. I don't think so anyways. Okay? All right. So, thought I'd be short on takes here, but it turns out I'm not. Folks, if you like the show, share the show. I'll be back tomorrow giving Super Bowl prediction breakdown, every single little piece of this nugget of this thing. It's the biggest game of the year with the Mad New Yorker. Going to get his take on some of these particular takes and ask him about, listen, tomorrow's the NBA trade deadline. There's still some thought there. That possibly Giannis may not get traded, but there are also some speculation that it's not out off the table that he still will get traded. Okay. I've been reading about possible packages from Golden State. Draymond Green is supposed to get traded. And I know there was a trade with Darius Garland, went to the Clippers, and who was it? Harden. James Harden ended up going to Cleveland. I think Cleveland got the worst end of that, but that's just me. You got 10 years difference there. We'll see how it plays out. But I'll tell you something that could happen in the buyout market. Could the Lakers kind of? This is something I was thinking about. Could LeBron James negotiate some kind of buyout from the Lakers? I don't know. I think that would be interesting. Or if he's traded and some kind of buyout is negotiated, I don't know. But LeBron's talking about retiring and all this stuff. We'll see how that plays out. It would be good if they could buy him out and open up that cap space if you're a Laker fan. But Giannis is, he's been hurt in the playoffs in the past. He still has a calf injury. He's not going to be able to play for a little while. Maybe he does not get dealt for that matter. But if I know the Knicks, people are saying, well, the Knicks probably may not do it. I said maybe they should on Monday. Listen. Even if they do not do the Giannis trade, I do think that they should add a piece or try to find a way to move Karl-Anthony Towns and add more of a balanced defensive player at that position. You feel like his lack of defense is going to hurt you at the very end. Okay. It'd be nice to bring him bring Anthony Davis there instead of Karl-Anthony Towns. That would be interesting to me. Trade a guy, then trade a guy again. I don't know if they can do that or not. Maybe they could. Probably will. Or I think they could. I don't know if they probably will not. But either way, it would be a big upgrade for them. They'd have to slow the offense down a little bit. Karl-Anthony Towns for Anthony Davis. I don't know how they could work that out with Washington, but Washington looks like they want to try to upgrade their front line. They're terrible this year. I don't know. That feels like a bunch of nonsense. Teams tell you one thing, but you're thinking maybe they're just trying to open their books back up and be bad and still can grow and get young. Because a lot of these trades in the NBA, I've noticed they're just trying to do salary dumps because you got so many guaranteed like Chris Middleton's just a salary dump. He's 34 years old last year, aspiring contract or whatever. You just want to get that and start over. That's what it feels like. But anyway, folks, if you like the show, share the show. Again, like I said, I'll be back tomorrow with the Mad New Yorker. We'll go over all this stuff. And we'll also, like I said, do the Super Bowl breakdown. Have a good night, everybody.